At the beginning of the film, we are introduced to a young woman named Nancy. She has traveled from America to a remote beach in Mexico, a place her mother visited shortly before Nancy was born. Now that her mother has passed away from cancer, Nancy has come here to remember her. Sitting in a car, Nancy shows a photograph of her mother to the local driver, hoping he will recognize the beach in the picture, since she doesn't know its name. Fortunately, the driver is familiar with the area. He takes her through the forest and eventually brings her to the secluded beach. Nancy is overjoyed by the beauty of the place.
This is paradise.
It's perfect.
As she prepares to get out, the driver asks how she plans to return. Nancy replies that she'll catch a ride later and thanks him for helping her find the location. He then drives away, leaving Nancy alone, except for two surfers already out in the water. Nancy has come to surf as well. With her board in hand, she enters the sea, waiting for the right wave. While waiting, the two surfers make small talk with her. When they learn she's from America, they mention how Americans often come here and earn well. Nancy asks if there's anything she should be aware of, and then mentioning two large rocks in the sea that disappear underwater once a day due to the rising tide. Soon, the waves begin to swell, and the three surfers start riding them together, enjoying the moment. Later, Nancy calls her sister back in the U.S. During the call, her father joins the conversation, urging her to return home and finish medical school. But Nancy refuses. Her mother's death shattered her faith in medicine, and she abandoned her studies. Her father reminds her that her mother was strong and brave. Leaving school because of her mother's death would go against who she was. Nancy responds emotionally, saying, "Even so, she still left us." She promises to visit soon but hangs up before giving a date, clearly overwhelmed with emotion. Then she heads back into the water. While surfing again, Nancy notices something unusual. A pod of dolphins jumps out of the water nearby, capturing her attention. She follows them deeper into the sea, where she stumbles upon the floating corpse of a giant whale, with birds perched on its decaying body. As the waves rise again, she resumes surfing until something slams into her surfboard. She's thrown underwater, separated from her board. Struggling to the surface, she climbs back onto it, but then something grabs her and starts pulling her underwater. Terrified, she breaks free and begins swimming toward the dead whale. Unbeknownst to her, she's being followed, a great white shark. But just before the shark can reach her, Nancy climbs onto the whale's carcass. She's injured, her leg bleeding from a deep wound. She quickly uses her earrings and parts of her clothing to stop the bleeding as best she can. From a distance, she spots the two surfers heading back to shore. Nancy waves and yells for help, but they're too far away to hear or see her clearly. They leave without realizing she's in danger. Now stranded alone on the whale's body, Nancy sees some rocks protruding from the water nearby and a floating red buoy further out, chained in place. It's used to monitor the tide and signal emergencies. But before she can make a move, the shark strikes again, ramming into the whale and knocking Nancy into the water. She swims desperately toward the rocks, with the shark in pursuit, and just barely manages to climb to safety. There, she finds a seagull with a broken wing, likely injured when the shark hit the whale. The bird, like Nancy, is now stranded. Despite her injured leg, Nancy uses an earring and her hair to suture her wound, tying it off with her jacket to stop the bleeding. As night falls, she sees her surfboard drifting in the water. Believing the shark is gone, she tries to retrieve it, but as she approaches, the shark returns. She scrambles back to the rock just in time. At dawn, Nancy spots a man lying on the beach, a drunk. She shouts and signals for help. The man hears her and wakes up. Seeing her gestures, he heads toward her bag on the beach, which contains her phone. But instead of calling for help, he steals her money and phone, slinging the bag over his shoulder. As he looks out at the water and sees the surfboard, greed takes over. Thinking he can steal it and sell it, he enters the water. But as he reaches the board, the shark attacks and kills him. Now Nancy has only 6 hours before the tide rises. When the water level goes up, even the rock she's perched on will be submerged. The shark will be waiting. Then hope appears. The two surfers return. Nancy screams to warn them about the shark, but they brush off her warning, thinking it's safe. Moments later, the shark strikes, dragging one of them under. The other surfer watches in horror. In an effort to save his life, the surfer quickly tries to swim toward Nancy, aiming to reach the rock where she's stranded. He manages to get close, and Nancy reaches out to pull him up. But just then, the shark attacks from below, dragging him into the water. And just like that, the hope Nancy had seen moments ago vanishes. Now, only 30 minutes remain until the tide rises and submerges the rock. Nancy watches the shark circling in the water. She calculates that if she enters the sea, she'll have only 30 seconds before the shark reaches her. She spots a helmet floating nearby, the same one worn by the boy she had tried to help. It has a camera mounted on it. Nancy dives into the water, trying to retrieve it, but it's drifted too far. The shark returns and charges toward her, forcing her back. It even tries to climb onto the partially submerged rock, causing Nancy to slip and fall into the water. But the shark struggles to reach her, getting momentarily stuck between sharp rocks and underwater plants. Taking advantage of the moment, Nancy scrambles back onto the rock, helmet and camera in hand. She begins recording a video. In it, she explains, "A whale died here, and the shark is mistaking me for part of its meal. That's why it keeps attacking." She then leaves a heartfelt message for her father and sister. "I never thought I would miss you this much," she says. "But don't worry, I'm not completely alone here." And she turns the camera to show the dead whale nearby. She continues, "Dad, I'll do everything I can to reach that buoy. I won't give up just like Mom wouldn't. She taught me to be brave." Nancy places the camera back inside the helmet and throws it far out into the sea, hoping it will float to shore and someone will find it, maybe even her family. Nancy has also tended to the injured bird, repairing its wing as best as she could. Though the bird still can't fly, she gently places it on her surfboard and pushes it into the water, hoping it too will make it to safety. Now, with only minutes remaining, Nancy knows her only chance of survival is to swim to the red buoy. The problem: the buoy is a minute away, but the shark can reach her in just 30 seconds. She has no other option. As she prepares to dive, her feet already in the water, she notices jellyfish rising to the surface. She remembers that earlier, when the shark came near the seaweed, it reacted in pain, likely stung by the jellyfish. This gives her an idea. Nancy jumps into the water and heads for the buoy. As expected, the shark starts chasing her. But as it nears, it gets stung by the jellyfish and is forced to retreat. Nancy takes the chance and quickly swims to the buoy's anchor chains. Grabbing them, she starts to climb. The shark circles back and follows her again. Nancy is nearly at the top when one of the chains snaps. She falls, landing directly on the shark's back. In her hand is a broken metal rod, and she stabs the shark with it before scrambling back up the buoy. Enraged, the shark attacks the buoy, slamming into it repeatedly, trying to knock Nancy off, but the buoy holds. Then, Nancy spots a ship in the distance. She grabs a flare gun attached to the buoy and fires a flare into the sky. It's a desperate signal. "I'm here. I'm alive." But the ship has already turned away. They don't see her. Meanwhile, the shark keeps ramming the buoy, more aggressively now. Nancy notices the area around the whale's carcass is slick with oil leaking from the decomposing body. As the shark makes another approach, Nancy fires the flare into the oil. The surface catches fire, flames racing across the water. The shark is burned and momentarily driven back, but the fire extinguishes as the creature dives. Furious and wounded, the shark launches a final assault. It bites into the buoy, shaking it violently, and eventually rips it from its moorings. Nancy falls into the sea once again but manages to wedge herself into a narrow section of the buoy for protection. Still, the shark continues to attack, biting into the buoy and trying to pull it underwater. Nancy sees the heavy anchor chain still attached to the buoy, connected to a thick iron rod below. An idea forms. She dives underwater, swimming toward the chain. The shark follows. Nancy begins detaching the buoy from its anchor rod. The effort is exhausting and dangerous. The shark is right behind her. As she works, the shark's own movements cause it to get close to the sharp rods near the ocean floor. Just as Nancy releases the chain, she swims to the side, out of the shark's path. The shark can't change direction quickly enough. It slams straight into the thick iron rods. They impale it completely, killing it instantly. The threat is finally over. Later, we see Nancy washed ashore, rescued by a man. The helmet camera she had thrown into the ocean was found by a child, who then brought help. Nancy survives, thanks to her courage, her will to live, and her refusal to give up, even in the face of death.